Welcome back to the Alone Together podcast where the loners aren't alone. I'm Journey.
I'm Layla.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a lot, but I think the general overview is raising consciousness and self-awareness. Same thing though.
Yeah.
But we're going to break this episode down into 3 parts. First one is going to be how we raise our consciousness, the history that prevents us from being conscious, and part 3, which is going to be raising consciousness in this generation. I will say that we are definitely coming from the Black perspective with this one, and really talking about our people, how we can be more conscious in this society that is a system built against us. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to open this up, and I know it may not directly personally apply to everyone, but y'all can all pull from what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, and even though we're coming from a Black perspective, I think it applies to a lot of minorities, almost every underrepresented group.
For sure.
A lot of our history has been erased, so it's not just Black people, like our history has been erased regardless. So
for sure. Minority perspective.
Yeah, minority perspective. I think everyone can relate to this. But first, I wanted to talk about the definition, my personal definition for consciousness. I believe that there's 2 forms of consciousness. First, self-consciousness or self-awareness, which is just fully being aware that you're alive, you're existing on this earth at this time, and being rooted in yourself, grounded, being aware of the impact that you have on people and on this earth. And, for me, I think that one took longer to obtain than my second form of consciousness, which in sociology, we call it oppositional consciousness. W.E.B. Du Bois called it double consciousness, but it's basically being conscious of your position in society, even though that isn't what you are. It's being conscious of the things that you're told you are, the things that history makes you be, and being conscious just of your position and working towards liberation of your oppressed state. So I think oppositional consciousness was definitely the first thing that I was aware of. I wasn't fully aware of the history that made me different from other people. But since I was very young, like being in a school with all white people or being in places when I was before I was 5, where I was the only mixed kid in all Mexican spaces, I was definitely made aware that I was different. And that was before I was even able or old enough to understand what self-awareness was and about my existence. I was made aware very young that I was Black and that was going to make life way different for me. So
who brought that to your attention?
I mean, when I was
family,
probably it would be other people. Like when I was 3 or 4, when I would go to the park with my grandma, I would be in an all Mexican community, and they would be like negrita and saying stuff about me in Spanish. And then when I went to elementary school, 3 to 5 years old, or 3rd to 5th grade, it was all white people. So they would tell me your nose is different, or why does your mom speak Spanish in the house? And I would get so embarrassed that I didn't want my mom to speak Spanish to me. But I definitely knew that I was different. And when I was 8, I think I went to Georgia for the first time to visit my grandpa. And that's when I really learned about stuff. My dad took me and my little brother to the Birmingham Museum. And that's when I first they have videos of lynchings in there. We were going to the bus stop where Rosa Parks was arrested. So that's when I started to learn the history more. But I didn't really start.
It's nice that you learned that not in schools.
I mean, that's what you have to do. They don't teach that in schools, but I really learned in college, honestly. That's when I really, really started learning most of the history that was erased, because UCLA African American Studies Department is really good. So
that's good.
I think I learned so much, and it was even before I was self-conscious. I think I became self-aware really in halfway through college. So learning all this, it was a lot on my spirit, really learning about all the things that make us oppressed and the stuff we're still going to have to fight against after we graduate. It was crazy to me.
Interesting. I think it's like totally opposite for me. Like, I feel like I didn't really learn my oppositional consciousness and my place in society for real until I was older. Or I think I don't really understood what it meant to be a Black woman in America until I was older. But I feel like the history was just like, I don't know. I feel like I just look different. And so I got a lot of weird questions when I was younger about like, what race am I and all that. But my parents always told me, you are Black. When they see you, they see Black. And that's what you are. And that's an interesting perspective, but I agree. And so I feel like at a young age, I knew I'm the only Black kid always in my classes, and made me very aware at a young age. But for some reason, I just grew numb to it and got so used to it, and especially growing up in Arizona. Like, I don't know, I feel like I didn't really understand. Like, I forgot that I was the Black kid, you know? And it wasn't until probably college where I was like, I'm not the only Black kid, and finally I can really
Be yourself.
be myself, be Black for, well, not be Black, but really just come into myself and not be afraid to hold that back. And I think being a Black woman in society, just we're already mature from a young age, I feel like, in that aspect. And just, I feel like we always have to grow up fast. So I think that we come into our consciousness in society pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And yeah, compared to most.
Yeah, definitely. I think like your oppositional consciousness as a Black woman, you get it so young because like, you know, you're the only Black kid in class. Mm-hmm. Like, it will be
known. And you're a woman, so it's like, I don't know, being a girl is just different than being a young boy, I think.
It definitely
more
is.
More attention on yourself.
And you're more, like, you're expected to do more.
Yes.
You're expected to be more mature.
Yes. Especially, I feel like, when it comes to, like, being the oldest kid or being the only girl. Like, I feel like I was pushed to be more of a feminine type of girl because I had all brothers. And I feel like they just wanted the little girly girl. They're tired of the football games and the sweaty, bad little boys running around. But I think that definitely plays into who I am and my consciousness and how I view things, my perception, I should say. But, okay, so part one, I guess we're already in that, but how, or the background, but how we raised our consciousness. I think, that honestly came when I started to learn the history and just like the underlying things, not just the basic, what they teach in school, but like the layers under that. And this is a system dedicated to oppression, not this is what happened in the past. No, it's still going. Yeah. And it's in everything and it's everywhere. And how we're seeing in our generation is mass incarcerations, police shootings, like, they're getting creative these days.
Yeah, but it's always the same thing. And that's what I noticed as you go through history. History repeats itself. And it's so easy in the United States, especially, to do the same thing, to oppress the same groups or even oppress different groups because they erase the history. So it's like they're doing the same thing in our generation that they were doing during the war on drugs, but we just don't learn about that. So it's like, we have to take, by the time we learn about it, we're already too deep in it. But that's why you have to like really try to make a change. And I think it's so important to teach your kids stuff like this because they're not going to learn it in school. And we know that now.
That's so true. And I feel like it's all on us individually to raise our consciousness. Like, we have to do it, uplift each other.
Yeah.
Like, the community needs to come together more than ever right now, I think, because, you know, it's police shootings, but it's also us killing us. And that's just where I'm not like understanding our generation right now, because they are coming at us in so many ways that are subtle, in so many ways that are so easy to miss. Like I'm saying, the prison or the pipeline system to prison, like, that's just going over people's heads, especially our community, I feel like, or they're becoming too submissive to it, I think. And kind of, you have to want to not be a statistic, I think, to raise your consciousness.
Mm-hmm. I also believe that your self-awareness and your self-consciousness needs to come first. Like, as someone who has worked in homeless communities, in the prison industrial system, with higher education in schools that are literally prison to pipeline schools, I feel like it is so important to be self-aware and take care of yourself first before you help anyone, because it truly is really emotionally draining to see the oppression that we face every single day. So if you don't have like yourself to come home to, and you can't ground yourself after working in this environment, your energy will be so drained and you'll just have nothing left at the end of the day. So I think for me, raising like my self-awareness happened when I went to Costa Rica, because life was just moving so fast in LA, and I knew I had to like get back to myself and like ground myself. So that's why I really wanted to go to Costa Rica, and it definitely did that for me, because I was in an environment where there was no like people really. I was literally in the wild with a bunch of random people. So that forces you to just really be yourself. You can be anyone you want to be, but like it just really forces you to be 100% yourself and really take care of yourself, being away from everyone and everything that you know. And I think that's when I really found like myself and was really grounded in myself. And I was completely different when I came back.
Mm-hmm. You were. No, for sure. I think for me, I don't know if I had like a turning point, because I just feel like, I don't know, being Black, you just kind of, you woke up, I don't know how to explain it, but I think
not always.
Yeah, but not always, which is why we made it.
Yeah.
But I think that I started to become I think I've always been a self-aware person, like really hyper-aware of myself, but conscious and who I am, I think that came in high school when I started to like honestly experience like mental health things like anxiety and depression. I don't know, but that just changed my life. And after that, it was like, what got me is just how do I help myself forever? Like, how do I live with this in a healthy way, not depending on other people? Like, I know I'm capable of overcoming this myself. And I think that's when I became really spiritual and realized, I can help our people and help the system by educating on mental health, and really, I don't know, just dedicating my life to mental health, because our people suffer the most from it, and just minorities in general. And I just feel like they know that. The people who are oppressing us know that we are the highest in every bad statistic, and they prey on that. But if our mental can be strong, and if we're conscious, if we're aware, like maybe we can really start to take steps, because we can't take unconscious steps to the solution. We can't be just doing it to do it. Like, we have to be intentional.
Yeah.
And I think that right there is just really what continues to raise my conscious.
Yeah, definitely. I think being intentional in raising your consciousness means being very intentional about the information that you're taking in, even like when it comes to news, when it comes to what you're reading, what you're looking at on social media. That's a huge thing for me. Like, learning at UCLA about our history really teaches you like how bad the news can be, and how bad just information that people think
media
is so
crazy.
Yeah, like information that people think is so like real and solid is not. So you really have to do your own research, and that's what I try to do when it comes to issues, like going beyond the surface, because they might tell us like, oh, it's a war going on here because of this. That's not the truth. You have to like really look into it yourself. And that's
always history.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing.
And if they're erasing our history, how are we going to know?
Exactly. That's a huge thing that you have to do when you're raising your consciousness. And that's something
you have to educate yourself.
Yeah, I'm very like intentional about now, like what I'm taking in and who's writing it. Like, there's certain people that I'll like.
The source.
Yeah, the source is so important. Like, I really know like some really good professors now, and I enjoy reading their work. because you know it's going to be good and you know it's going to be truthful.
The source matters, and I think the media has our people so blind. Like this is like the media is really what's killing us and preventing us from being an aware species at this moment, I think. Because just how easy it is for something to go viral, everyone believes it. And it's like, once you really dead set on believing something, it's really hard to change your belief on that. And people just become rooted in nonsense, I feel like. And it don't make no sense.
And you know, Black people actually
it don't make no sense how we're so gullible.
Black people are the most likely to believe conspiracy theories because we don't trust the government. So it's very easy for us to believe that the government is lying. They did a study on that. And it's just really interesting because a lot of the conspiracy theories that Black people are believing actually are holding us back. They're actually like deeply affecting Black people in general. But that's why it's just important to really make sure you know the sources, because for older people it's Facebook, for really old people it's the news. But Facebook is really bad, like really bad. They literally it's crazy because Facebook even tells you on some things, it'll be like, oh, this information is false, and people will still spread it and believe it. Really believe it.
That's what I'm saying. If it gets enough shares or whatever, they gonna believe it.
They literally believe anything on Facebook.
And then people tell people, they send it to other people. Like, it's such a terrible chain reaction. Social media is crazy. And even with young folk, like, the younger we're getting it, is the younger we're exposing to this crap. And, like, how are we ever going to get anywhere if we're not feeding our youth the truth?
Yeah. But that's exactly
if the foundation is messed up, the rest is messed up.
That's exactly what they want. And it's just crazy to really sit there and think about the fact that a true history of the United States, starting with the killing of indigenous people, going on to slavery, going on to the civil rights movement, it is not required to be taught in school. Florida's just passed a law called called something woke act, where they're not allowed to talk about certain civil rights leaders. They're not allowed to talk about certain ethnic studies things.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that like they're not allowed to also have books on LGBTQ studies in libraries at schools anymore in Florida. That is insane to think about, because everyone thinks about us as a progressive country. Like, we are not allowed to learn our history until we get to college, really. And even then, you have to look for those courses.
I was just about to say, that's crazy you said that, because today I was reading my psych textbook and there was a whole page on LGBTQ and just homosexual studies. And I was like, wow, I honestly never thought I'd see this in a textbook, to be honest. But exactly, like education. And I just feel like our people and just minorities, like, really, they either really see the value in education and know it's the way out, or they don't care. And it's like no in between.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's those families that really push education on their kids because they know, or they experienced it firsthand. But see, that's the thing. Like, our parents, some of them went to college, some of them didn't. Both learned the importance of education, especially being Black in America. But there's so many of our generation, kids we're going to school with, who are first gen or would be first gen. And it's not like they have the parents really preaching it to them. But the ones who know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like I was blessed to have parents. One of my parents didn't go to college, and one has the highest level of education. And it's complete opposites, but they both understand. Like, as a Black woman in America, that's what I was taught. Like, that, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
But in our generation, I feel like that's just lacking. Like, we're so quick to say, forget school. And right now, I think our generation more than ever is really learning how to get it without school, which I don't hate on. Like, temporary, right?
They really got it, though.
If you got it, you got it. Like, shout out you. You beat the system for real. But, I don't know. I just feel like I need the education. And that's how I can do what I want to do and help other people raise their consciousness through mental health, through education. in order to do that, I got to get educated. You know?
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say is just, I think over the years, something that's changed with me is I used to be so focused on Black rights and just fighting for Black people. And I think as like I raised my self-consciousness and also my oppositional consciousness, you just realize how much our oppression is connected to other groups and everything is connected. So I don't necessarily agree with the saying that like when Black women are liberated, everyone will be. I think that there's so many different forms of oppression. Like helping Black women in America is not going to change the state of immigration laws. Yeah. It's not going to help the Mexican population. There's different systems for different populations that are holding them back in different ways. So I think coalition is the biggest thing that we could take away from this, and just working together. I think that makes everything stronger. True. And that's the only way to really change these systems that work against us, like forming coalition, having solidarity. But I think the education aspect is what holds us back, because we think we're so different and we think that our needs are so different. And honestly, like, we're only worried about ourselves. But when you really look at the oppression of different groups, I think if you're fighting for your group, then it doesn't make sense for you to say you don't want to fight for another group as well. So, like, right now, I'm focused on fighting the oppression of all different groups, not just my group. And it's all connected because and also I think intersectionality. You fall into
multiple groups.
Definitely.
So that really applies to you, I think, for sure. And that's good. Like, yeah.
Everything overlines. Like for me, I do fall into multiple groups, like being Latinx and being Black. And then also, like, when you're thinking about Latinx and Black people, for Latinx people, we fall into Indigenous. We fall into, like, there's Latinx people that have disabilities. There's Latinx people that are LGBTQ. Same with the Black community. So it's like, it doesn't make sense for me to be like, oh, I'm fighting for Black people, or I'm fighting for Latinx people, but I'm not fighting for people with disabilities. I'm not fighting for people with certain identities, because they all intersect and align.
I also think part of raising your consciousness is kind of becoming aware to the reality that equality will just never be.
Facts.
And that's like, I don't know, some people may say that's like hella pessimistic, but it is the truth.
It's just real. Like, it is the truth. It's real. As society continues to get more complex, like, it's no way that we could all be equal, because especially there has to be someone ruling something, you know?
And especially just in America.
Especially here.
Especially in America. Maybe some other countries, you know, they cool, I think. But here, where we're built on inequality, like, that could just never be, I think. And I think once you become fully aware of that, not that you will pull back from your activism, but you'll definitely find a different approach.
Yeah, I think that's definitely so important. Like, your approach.
Yeah, like I said, mental health is mine, and I think because that applies to everybody. That's a general part of our health, you know. But of course, I promote all types of activism, but
that's
sometimes you just can't really. Yeah, exactly.
You can't do everything.
Yeah,
you know?
You can't really continue to fight for something that's just kind of gonna never be. You know, I think it's more so about how can we help the people, opposed to reverse what's already done.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like you could change institutions, but
that is true.
I do think that your approach is so important. Like, I'm taking a class on collective behavior, and it's all about social movements and what different tactics they use, the response by the government, and what works and what doesn't. And it's really interesting, but I think it's taught me so much just about how to use different tactics for different things. Every protest isn't going to look the same. Like, it really depends on what your outcome is. And I think that's the problem with a lot of activism today. Like, it'll be social media activism, it'll be a nonprofit, but what is the end goal? If you don't have an end goal, like, oh, I really want to get this bill passed to help with the prison industrial system, then you're just doing a bunch of activities that help people that day, but it's not actually making a difference because there's no end goal.
Yeah. Intentional.
Yeah.
Intentional activism. I like that. No, for real. But I mean, we kind of already went into part 2 with the history. I mean, y'all know. Slavery led to everything. Slavery is still slavery, just in different forms. We're still not completely free. And until then, I think we're in some type of shackle.
Definitely. And I think it's just crazy
systematic
how
now
our history is portrayed. And the craziest part to me is when they put civil rights pictures in history books in black and white, when they know good and well that they have those pictures in color. They just try to make it seem like it was so long ago.
That
Our
is
grandparents
so
literally lived through that, and they have pictures in color. But
and they could get them developed.
Exactly. It's subtle things like that where
very subtle.
It's trying to make it seem like it was far off. And then I also wanted to say Harry Belafonte, he was an important activist during the civil rights movement, also a musician, but he said, like, when he looks at our generation, he wonders how we are so aware of our history, but we're able to just go off and work for Wall Street and work for these large corporations.
We're so easy to be submissive. That's what I was saying. Exactly.
But he said, I don't blame them, though, because their whole life they've been indoctrinated to believe that they can escape their oppression just by going and getting crumbs from these capitalistic systems.
Why are we trying to be like our oppressor?
That
I will always ask that question. Why are we... Let's look at different type of Black people, different type of minority. Okay, like the stereotypical make it out the hood, and typically what do they start to spend their money on? Materials, stuff to make themselves appear like they have the money. Okay, then you have the other type of people who may just, I'm gonna be humble with my money, but at the same time, I feel like we're always then we're giving in to the corporate. And
corporate jobs.
Yeah, and it's like, why are we trying to do that? Like, why are we trying to appear as, the white male?
But I think that's like
in different ways, in our own way.
I think that's not our fault at the same time, because I think we were very indoctrinated to be so capitalistic and think that we can escape our oppression by getting a corporate job or by getting money and having these things to make us appear rich, when in reality that's just really making the gap further.
And even the way they structured racism early on, it's like, you'll never be one of us.
Yeah.
So until you're one of us, you're below us. And I just think that is just programming from slavery, from this when the slaves first got freed. Like, I'm just trying to make as much as the white man. I'm just trying to get a house like the white man. I'm just trying to all this and this, and it's generational.
We trying to do that, but I think it's really interesting that we're the leader in all the bad statistics except suicide. White males is the highest rate of suicide.
I know,
and like we're trying so hard to obtain that when in reality they're not even happy. Like, money does not make you happy, and I think that's something that we need to really understand as Black people, as minorities in general. Money is not going to make us escape our oppression, especially for Black people.
Money is not going to free us,
especially for Black people, because like the crazy part is you can have money, you can have all the accolades, but if you get pulled over by a cop, you're right there in that lower position, no matter how much money you have.
Exactly.
It's really life or death.
Exactly. Like, and that's how they're getting us right there, the police, for real. But exactly that. It does not matter. The money is not going to free us. It's our mind. It's our mindset. It's our community. And us being like so against each other is what's really killing us, because now they got us hating each other. And that is just the ultimate form of like, they might have won. Like, how they got us, going against each other for the same thing.
Yeah.
When we all can have it. They really have us believing that there's not enough out there for us, but there is.
Yeah. And I also think
there is.
That's that competition stuff, though. Like, we think that we're competing for resources when we don't have to.
I was talking to somebody about that and about just being competitive. And I was like, honestly, when I became a spiritual, like really started getting into that and just raising my consciousness, I stopped becoming a competitive person. Like, I always was, but I'm not competitive anymore because I just truly feel that we all, individually we have our, what's meant for us, when we're aligned with everything, then what is meant for us is going to be for us. And it's never about, I need to take from them or, they have more than me. We're all going to have exactly what we need in the end. And I just don't feel the need to compete. And I just think, but that's just because I took the time to raise my consciousness. But I think we need to stop being so competitive in our communities. Like, it's always competition, but honestly, that's when people want to be selfish. When we all work together, we flourish. Mm-hmm. When we're competitive is when we're snaking each other and all that,
Jealousy.
Yes.
Is really what drives a lot of killing, I feel like.
Yes. And at the end of the day, killing is for power, and that's just a competition. Like, the world is so rooted on that. But what happens if we just cease that and stop being selfish and stop trying to be like the white man?
Yeah.
Just be ourselves and support each other being themselves.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that's really, I think, that holds us back is media representation. There's so much media representation of Black people now, like they're trying to include us. But what is it? It's Black people as drug dealers. It's Black people. It's still Black people in chains. It's still Black people doing drugs. And it's like, when we're never getting representation of a conscious Black person, we're never getting representation of an activist. And if we do get a movie about an activist, it's not about the activist. It's about the FBI killing them, or it's about the informant. It's not about what the activist did. So
talk about it.
I just think that representation of Black people that are actually working on helping Black people is not there. And it's really sad because how are kids supposed to want to be activists or want to be educators when they don't see themselves doing that?
Movies.
All they see is Black people as rappers, Black people as strippers, Black people as drugs. And they don't understand the trauma that comes with all of those things because they glorify it on TV.
We're saying some things.
They really glorify, like, drug dealing, Snowfall. We were just watching that. They're glorifying it and making it seem like so cool. It's not cool to kill people. It's not cool to like the trauma that you hold after living that life.
Right. I think the trauma of that isn't cool. Exactly that.
And you see that like with these rappers, because even after they get the money, they're still in those streets.
They're still living the same
and they
life.
Still like they're getting killed. And like I just don't know what it's gonna take for us to understand that promoting violence is promoting somebody dying. Like you're rapping all these lyrics and then you're so sad when they die, but what did you expect?
And that's what's even interesting. That could even go to the theory, how I'm saying they got us going against each other. They're giving all this money to rappers and, people who promote that type of stuff. And what does that do? That glorifies it. That makes people want to do that. Because at the end of the day, we all just programmed in this country, especially, to chase the money, chase the bag. Like, get the money. You want to be rich. And being rich in this society is everything. And, people will do anything for that. Mm-hmm. And how conscious are you? How much are you going to give in to, I will do anything for the money, or, like not giving into that. And that just really comes with your consciousness. I
find gangster rap and just like it blowing up this big, so strategic.
It's strategic
because rap and hip hop was really rooted in activism. It was rooted in like poetry and people talking about being oppressed. And then all of a sudden they give all this funding to gangster rap, and look where we are now.
And also I think back then, yes, they talked about, where they were in life and like, the ghetto, but like not glorifying. More so like, this is where they got us, and they got us effed up type beat. Like, not, I love this life and it's cool. And I think I seen this thing, it was Young Boy, and it was like some interview while he was on house arrest, and he was like, I feel bad that my music has motivated young kids to kill. And I just thought that was crazy. Like, that's deep.
But when you really think about it, it's like NBA Youngboy was super famous when he was 16 years old. And
it's crazy.
There's grown men listening to that, probably killing people. So he's still really young. He's still really young, and he's coming to that like awareness of, wow, like I really probably had that impact. And I think a lot of rappers are coming to this awareness, which is great because we need to, like, I think they are rapping about their situation. That's how they really grew up. But it comes to a point where it's like, what am I promoting now?
Yeah.
And
once you have the platform, I always say this, do something with it. Exactly. Like, don't be doing the same stuff that you was doing before. Don't do the same thing that's going to get you killed. Like, do something positive with it. Like, you didn't want to be in that situation before, so now help those who are.
Exactly. And we really need representation of just Black people just doing stuff in the community. Like, we don't have a famous influencer that's an influencer for being an activist. But when you look back in the 60s and 70s, Black Panthers and the activists, those were the most famous people. Everyone like knew about them. Like, and they were deeply connected to like jazz music and jazz musicians and like they were really like a celebrity. Yeah. And I'm not saying like, and most of them didn't want to be celebrities. It just happened that way because of the work that they did. Yeah. But I just think that it's really important that we give people their flowers that are actually doing work, because we're so quick to post a celebrity, but are we posting our friends and giving applause to our friends for actually doing the work? Like, I think that should be looked up upon just as much as someone making music or making a YouTube video.
No, for sure. I completely agree. And I just think, like I said earlier, you know, we're glorifying those who are getting rich, and we don't see activists rich. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they look down on, the activist, you know, like she's not really doing a real job. She's just being an activist, but that is a job. Like,
it is.
That is a passion. That is something, you know, that's their purpose. And I think we should never look down on people who really, or not look down, but like you said, not give flowers to people who are really out there, like doing it from the ground up, like, you know?
And they really incarcerated and killed all of our Black leaders. Yeah. So when you really know the history of Black activism, to see someone working in activism, like, to me, it deserves the most flowers. Yeah. Like Angela Davis. Yeah. Almost all of her comrades were killed or put in prison. For her to still be out here doing the work
as a woman too
is really amazing. Like, that's like one of my biggest role models. Yeah. Not Nicki Minaj. Like, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I'm a barb, but like that's not who I'm trying to be. I'm not trying to be Nicki.
Respectfully.
That's like that show last night.
Yeah, for real. Respectfully, I agree with that. But I just think in this generation, for real, we just need to be aware of media. Like, because that's what's programming us the most right now.
Yes, we're in the media age, and I think
we're flaunting. You know, like you said, we're showing off. We're reposting the BBLs, the chains, the drip. Like, we're showing that stuff off. But what about actual stuff what about food for thought? Like, what about an inspirational quote? My God, what about, I don't know, your friend?
To do a podcast repost. Follow the page. No, I'm just playing.
But like, for real, like, why are we so quick to post someone who doesn't know who you are and not someone you sit next to in class every day? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's the competition. That's the competition, I think, and the jealousy and the community not wanting to come together.
Yeah, I think controlling the media is so important. But also, since we're entering this weird era where we're going into the Metaverse, I think it's going to be so important to pay attention to what's going on outside. Because the more we're locked into our phones and locked into the technology, the more they have the opportunity to do some weird shit outside. And that's why I'm not going in the Metaverse. I'm going to be outside in the streets, because what are y'all trying to do that you want us inside all day on virtual reality goggles? Because
bro, the commercial with the Metaverse goggles in the classroom had me a little.
I just saw a thing for like a virtual reality concert. What?
How does that at all emulate the real experience? Like, the Metaverse is scary. I refuse to educate myself on it, honestly, and like AI, because I know it's going to be our reality really soon. It's coming faster than we all think.
AI found the cure for cancer.
But I'm scared. I don't know if I'm ready for my mind to be open to that.
I refuse to put on a VR headset. I've never done it. I never will do it. I don't care if
they're scary.
100 years old and everyone is walking around with them. I'm gonna use my eyes.
It's a little too real. I'm gonna use my eyes as the one because they really mess with your eyes. So they're probably just gonna mess with people's eyes and then force them to wear them. You know, it's
my eyes are already messed up.
It's always a system. It's always. You know, the underlying things that we're not catching that's killing us.
Mm-hmm. For our generation, I think it's so important to take care of your mental health. With the media age comes things like cyberbullying.
We were just
comes things
about
like
this.
Comparison. And I think you really need to take care of yourself first before you're able to tackle the world and your purpose and tackle all these
issues.
You're
not even going to find your purpose if you're not aware. Or if you're not conscious, I think. Mm-hmm. Because how are you conscious of yourself and your place in this world if
you're not?
Like, you know?
Yeah, I just think mental health is the first step for everything. I think once your mind is clear and you feel good, physical health as well, your body feels good, that's when you're able to do the work and to do what you really want to do and to learn about your oppression and learn about these groups.
We need to be the generation of breaking generational curses when it comes to mental health. And I just feel so strongly in that. Like,
I think we will.
I think we are because honestly, like I've said it before, but COVID did a number with that and that woke people up. And I just think it was a devastating thing, but it was a beautiful thing. And it really, experience creates awareness. And I think there's conscious and there's unconscious experience. And when you're unconscious of your mental health, you're never going to learn from it. And it'll be a norm for you. But if you're conscious of what's happening, like for me, example, when I first started having anxiety, I didn't know what that was. So I just thought it was normal. But as I educated myself and sought help for it, I was able to know, oh, this is anxiety. I'm having anxiety attacks in class. Like, oh, I have test anxiety. Like, I would have never known that if I was, stuck in that mindset that most Black women have to not speak up and to not ask for help. And I think we need to start not educating, but just promoting to our youth, like, it's okay to speak up. Like, those thoughts you're having, maybe they're not normal, and that's okay. It's really starting with the youth, I think. But like you said, the mental health, like we have to be teaching that at a young age because that is health, that's your well-being.
Yes. And I think also we're in an era where mental health is a trend. I think a lot of people will post
negative mental health is a trend.
Yeah. People post things like, oh, I do this because of my ADHD. Or because of my ADD. And then you'll see a bunch of people hopping on the trend, especially white middle class people, saying like, oh, I have ADD too because I do this one thing. And it's like, if you're not diagnosed for something, I don't think you should be saying that you have it because you do one thing. And mental health is not a trend. Of course, like people that actually have mental health issues and are diagnosed may try to make light of it and like make a joke every now and then, but that doesn't mean you do the one thing that they make a joke about. So you go and say, I have this mental health issue, because I feel like that makes it harder for people to speak out because there's so much information and it's not a joke and you guys are making it seem fun and cute and quirky. And it's not. It's really
a battle for some people.
It is.
And we're blind to that a little bit still. But I think, like I said, COVID kind of got people sitting with themselves and was like, this isn't fun. This isn't funny. I need to take this seriously. I need help, and now there's more resources, thankfully, for people.
Online resources.
And therapy is honestly getting way more accessible than it was. Mm-hmm. But, you know, there's the stigmas now. We got the accessibility, but now we gotta break stigmas. Mm-hmm. And now we gotta break generational curses and become advocates and make it a normalcy.
Yeah.
Because we have the power to do that if we take the media in the positive route.
Yeah, and it's still a problem though, like accessibility. I was talking to my therapist and he was saying like one of his patients has Medi-Cal, which is like the state healthcare insurance usually that low income people have, and he said that it would take months before they could see a psychiatrist just because they had that insurance process. So it's like maybe we could get the therapy, which already takes months to process, but if we need actual help, it's still going to take a long time because of our situation, which sucks, and that definitely needs to be reformed and changed and thought about.
That's something that definitely needs to be reformed, is access to it, because we have health care for doctors, if we have dental care, you know, that's all health care. But what about this health? You know, it's not just about the bodily functions. That's the consciousness we're lacking. They don't understand that the mind is everything.
Everything.
They don't understand that the mind is what is affecting the everything body else. If the mind is effed up, it's going to show. It's going to reflect. And if it doesn't show, they're going to feel. And that's anxiety.
And eventually it does show up in their body.
Exactly. And it's all one. But we're so focused on the separation of the mind and the body. But it's all one.
It is. I saw this really cool story, and it was like an old folks home. And they basically dressed it up like it was the 80s. And like made it all 80s theme and 70s theme. And they said that people started walking again that hadn't walked in years because like it was reminding them of when they were young. And that's how powerful your mind is, that if you're like in a situation where you think you're young, your mind is able to control your body to the point where you could walk after you haven't been walking for years. Because when you're constantly told like, you can't do this, you can't do that, or even self-talk, telling yourself like you're not enough, or like stressing yourself out, that affects your body.
As hard as America makes it and the world makes it, we have to start seeing each other as souls, not people of different colors. And, you know, that is consciousness, is seeing ourselves and other people as souls. And just maybe if we did that, equality would be possible.
Yeah.
And real change would start to happen. If we weren't so focused on separation
and materials. I think we definitely have to look at each other as souls.
The temporary stuff.
And also, like, because we're looking at each other as souls, we need to understand how important it is to educate each other and our kids and the next generation on our history. Because, like, of course, it's easy to say, I don't see color, I don't see this, I don't see that. But y'all need to see it because that's the reality of it. And we need to acknowledge the history so we can be able to move on.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you raise your consciousness in the 21st century.
Period. You have it here, folks.
We gave you the blueprint.
Take it and run with it.
Please.
And don't tell the U.S. government. No, I'm just playing.
Please. So, definitely like, comment, you know, how y'all see the system in your life and how you take steps to raise your consciousness. Subscribe, follow our social media. And we just appreciate all the support. And we hope that this message reaches everybody and that y'all have been educated today.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you.